From homeless black man to millionaire, the Elon Musk and Donald Trump story. They said it was impossible that a homeless man with nothing but a tattered jacket and worn-out shoes could rise to the dizzying heights of millionaire fame. But that's exactly the kind of story Henry Caldwell lived, if only a little different than you'd expect. The tabloids screamed wild headlines, twisting facts, with names like Elon Musk and Donald Trump thrown in like shiny bait. From homeless black man to millionaire, the Elon Musk and Donald Trump story. The words flashed in neon lights, making people stop and stare, hungry for the juicy details. Henry's life seemed wrapped in mystery. Night after night, the city skyline glowed with its unforgiving splendor, towering glass giants shining cruel lights from above. Down below, in the cold shadows of shattered sidewalks and flickering street lamps, a different world breathed hard, raw, desperate, forgotten. Henry had once lived like a god in that glee. A ruthless food critic dropped a brutal review, a gut punch sharper than any knife in Henry's kitchen. The words tore through him, through his team, through the dream that lifted him from nowhere. His restaurant emptied out. His name evaporated from the whispers of the city's elite. The fear spread like fire in his chest, squeezing tight. Hand trembles turned into heavy steps of doubt. Who was he without the sparkle? When the ropes holding his identity snapped, he crashed hard into loneliness, shame, and a sharp, burning confusion. On one of those nights, wandering the streets, hollow and raw, Henry found Jasmine. She was a sudden spark. A woman with eyes that blazed fierce, despite cracked lips and dirty clothes. Homeless too, but there was something impossible about her. Jasmine cooked, not fancy pots or imported spices, but magic. Leftovers turned into mouth-watering meals that could fool kings. From scraps, she built flavor worlds, and the way she moved, confident, yet soft. Tea? He watched her work, close enough to smell the richness in her simple pan. His heart clenched. The glow of his ruined kitchens dimmed beside her fierce survival. "Let's do something crazy," Henry whispered one evening. She looked up, eyes sharp with challenge. "Together, a restaurant for real people, not just the rich, for anyone hungry." The idea made them dizzy, thrilling, terrifying, but whispers chased them from the shadows, snide words from the polished tables they used to own. Stop! The culinary world out there, it didn't want them to break the rules. And Jasmine, her eyes hid stories darker and deeper than Henry guessed. Secrets that might burn their fragile trust to ashes. Now, as they race toward their first big night, tension crackles in the air. A storm waits just beneath the surface. Will they break through? Or will the world pull them apart before their story even begins? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And since you're here, drop a powerful like. That really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and let me know in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. The tension was electric in the air, a mix of nerves and hope swirling between Henry and Jasmine. The taste of anticipation filled his mouth, thick and sweet. A real restaurant! For everyone! Laughter danced in the corners of his mind, but shadows lurked, whispering warnings. They pushed forward, hands clasped, losing themselves in that wild dream. But just as they were about to step into their first night, a figure crashed through the door. The bell jingled, ringing out like a gunshot, a scream caught in the crowd's throat. It was Raj, the sous chef who had walked away that terrible day at Henry's old restaurant. His eyes were wild, skin gleaming with sweat, panic etched across his face. "Henry!" he shouted breathless. "You need to listen. It's about Jasmine." A ripple of shock swept through the small room. Every heartbeat echoed with a thud against the walls. Henry felt his heart pause, a lump forming in his throat. "What do you mean?" "Saw her," Raj gasped, hands shaking. "Saw her in the alley behind the old place. She was meeting someone, some big-time restaurateur. It's all a setup." Henry staggered back, the walls closing in. Jasmine's face transformed in his mind. Could that fire he admired conceal a darker truth? No, she can't be. His voice dropped, panic rising. Raj grabbed Henry's arm, desperation bursting in his eyes. "I'm telling you, I heard them talking about some secret plan to sabotage your opening. They don't want you to succeed. They want to see you fail. You need to confront her." Silence filled the room, heavy and suffocating. The kitchen's warmth felt like a joke now. Jasmine had promised honesty. She had been his partner in this madness. But what if he didn't know her at all? Every moment of magic they shared dimmed under the weight of doubt. Could he trust her? Could he even trust himself? Henry felt the world tilt beneath him. He turned, scanning the faces in the crowd, eyes wide with disbelief, mouths moving in hushed murmurs. Were they judging? Were they seeing through him, sensing the cracks forming in what they thought was a beautiful fairy tale? "Raj," he whispered, the slightest tremor in his voice. "What if you're wrong?" But Raj shook his head. "I heard it, Henry. You know I wouldn't lie. She's hiding something." Before Henry could respond, the door swung open again. Laughter danced in, bright and harsh. Jasmine stood tall, her confidence radiating. But something flickered in her eyes as she caught sight of the charged atmosphere. The warmth that usually enveloped her seemed to chill. "Hey, what's going on?" Her voice rang out, but it pierced through Henry like a blade. The crowd turned as one to face her. Henry's heart raced, time suspended in disbelief. Would he confront her now? The looming secrets felt like shadows thickening around him. "Did you think we wouldn't find out?" Raj blurted out, his voice cracking like thunder. Jasmine's expression faltered, eyes darting between Henry and Raj. Confusion stamped on her features. The air crackled, and Henry realized this was it. The choice hung over him like a weight, pulling him down. Jasmine opened her mouth, struggling to form words, but nothing came. As the storm of their world spiraled out of control. "Tell me it's not true," Henry finally spoke, his voice shaking but firm. "Tell me you're not a part of this." The room held its breath. Jasmine's mouth trembled, but the truth trembled deeper, threatening to shatter everything they'd built. Before she could answer, a loud crash sounded from the kitchen. The sound of glass shattering echoed through the space, jolting everyone back into reality. Chaos erupted, and the moment hung balanced on a razor's edge. Would this night reshape their futures? Would fragments of dreams cut them apart? As the kitchen erupted with urgency, one thing became clear. Nothing would be the same again. As Henry and Jasmine stepped inside the little space they had rented, the air buzzed with excitement and fear. The walls, fresh with paint, gave off a sharp scent that mix. Their fingers brushed against counter edges, their hearts racing. Tonight was the night. A dinner for the community. Friends, parents, stray souls, they had invited everyone, hoping to spark something magical. The sun dipped low behind buildings, bathing everything in a soft, warm glow. It was perfect, except for the lingering doubt that gnawed at Henry's gut. A flicker of worry? Or was it something deeper? Jasmine moved about, arranging simple tables with mismatched chairs. She hummed under her breath, the sound lighting up the room. His confidence swirled in her energy, and for a moment, he dared to smile. But then, a crash echoed from the back entrance. Henry turned sharply, heart pounding. Jasmine froze, her eyes wide. What was that? Her voice trembled just slightly. Before he could answer, the door burst open. A figure stumbled inside, a man, wild-eyed and disheveled, clothes tattered like old rags. Henry squinted, fighting the thoughts racing in his mind. "Hey, are you okay?" he called out. But the man didn't answer. Instead, he fell to his knees, clutching something close to his chest. Henry rushed over, ready to help, thoughts swarming. Something felt wrong. As he got closer, he froze, eyes widening. It was a bundle wrapped in stained cloth. The man's grip tightened, fear flickering across his face. "Please," he gasped, "you have to help me." "What do you mean?" Henry asked, a chill crawling down his spine. He glanced at Jasmine, who stood rooted in place, fear written across her features. "The chef," the man choked out, his breath ragged. "The one who writes reviews. He's here. He knows. He's coming for you." The words hit like a punch. The ceiling felt low, the air thick. What did he mean? How could he know? Jasmine moved closer, her curiosity overpowering her caution. "Who is he? Why is he after us?" The man's eyes darted around, wide with panic. He didn't want you to open. Just then, the front window shattered. Glass flew everywhere, sparkling like deadly confetti under the dim lights. Henry screamed, instinctively pulling Jasmine to the floor, shielding her with his body. Suddenly, shouts filled the air. The figure behind the broken glass, a tall man, impeccably dressed, but there was nothing kind in his gaze. Slick, he smiled, a predator, watching prey. "You thought you could create something real? In this city? Think again." His voice sliced through the chaos like a knife. The tension in the room crackled. Henry could barely breathe. Fear tightened around his chest. Jasmine peeked out from behind him, eyes filled with confusion. "Who are you?" she demanded. "Who am I?" The man laughed, a chilling sound. "Just the one who can hold all your dreams and smash them." Henry felt the ground shift beneath him, reality trembling. Every plan, every hope hung in the balance. Were they really as strong as they believed? Would the world just swallow them whole again? Then the man's gaze locked onto Henry, fierce and cold. You should have stayed in the shadows. Now let the game begin. The world around them faded. All that remained was a rush of fear, a mantra echoing in his head. Everything was at stake. Would Henry lose everything again? Would they be torn apart before they even had a chance to rise? The night stretched ahead, dark and uncertain. Would they be ready for the fight of their lives? Or was it already too late? The night hung thick with tension, the air electrifying as the tall man stepped through the broken window. Chaos erupted, screams piercing the silence like knives. Henry felt himself freeze, heart thumping violently against his ribs. This was it. The storm he'd been waiting for, finally crashing into their fragile dream. Jasmine moved beside him, eyes wide and terrified. "What do we do?" she whispered. But Henry could barely think. The man, slick and imposing, was still grinning. A predator who thrived on fear. But then, from the back of the room, a figure emerged. A young girl, not more than 7. Wild hair framing a tear-streaked face. She darted forward, small but fierce. "Stop!" she yelled, her voice cutting through the chaos. It was a command, more than a plea, startling everyone into silence. The tall man paused, confusion flickering on his face. "What? Who is this?" he stammered, eyeing her with growing annoyance. Henry's breath caught in his throat. "What are you doing here?" he croaked, heart racing. The child didn't belong here. She was lost in this world of darkness and danger. But instead of backing down, she stepped closer, fists clenching at her sides. "You don't know what you're doing! You can't ruin his dreams!" Her voice wavered, but rang out with power. "Sweetheart, go back," Henry called, fear clawing at him, but she didn't move. "Your lies can't cover the truth." The girl shot back, eyes fierce as she locked onto the tall man. "What truth?" Henry asked, desperation clawing at his gut. That's when the girl turned slowly and pointed directly at Jasmine. "She's not who you think she is." The words dropped like a bomb, echoing lifetimes of secrets in the small space. Jasmine gasped, took a step back, eyes flaring wide with raw shock. "What are you talking about?" she managed, voice shaking. The room held its breath, eyes darting between the girl and Jasmine. "You need to listen," the girl insisted. "You need to see the truth." "You don't know who you're trusting." Henry's heart raced. Everything felt like a fever dream. Could this be real? Jasmine turned to him, confusion echoing across her features. "Henry, I swear I don't know her." "Liar!" the girl shouted, voice quivering with rage. "You think you can play with lives? Slip away like a shadow? You're lucky I found this place before it was too late." The tall man shifted, annoyance replaced by intrigue. "Go on, little one. What do you know?" A crack shot through the tension, sharp and demanding. She was supposed to disappear. The girl hurled the words like a weapon, each one deeper than a knife. They made plans, and she was a part of it. But I saw them. I overheard. Henry felt the ground shift beneath him. The room closed in, eyes captured in a whirlwind of disbelief. Jasmine's face turned pale, something shifting within her eyes. Shame or fear? No, Jasmine whispered, tremors ripping through her. Yes, the girl shot back, relentless. You're just a puppet, and he's the one holding the strings. Don't you dare, Jasmine started, but Henry interrupted, feeling his world tilt. What are you saying? He demanded, desperation creeping in. Tell him, the girl pressed, raw urgency spilling from her voice. Tell him who you really are. A heavy silence fell, thick and suffocating. The tall man laughed, dark and slick. Interesting. It seems tonight is more than just a restaurant opening. Henry glanced between the chaos and Jasmine, the girl's accusations burning like fire. Fear clutched at his throat, his heart racing. Is this true? He implored Jasmine, voice raw with despair. But before she could answer, the door burst open once more. A shadowy silhouette stepped in, loud, chaotic footsteps crashing against the calm. We're too late! Henry's heart sank. What did that mean? What the hell was going on? But before he could react, a blinding light flooded the room. Flashing, screaming sirens cut through the mayhem, illuminating faces caught in shock and uncertainty. The police had arrived, and suddenly, everything felt like a nightmare, spiraling out of control. With the truth hanging heavy in the air, would they unravel the secrets, or would the night swallow them whole? The night stretched before them, heavy with excitement and fear. Henry could taste the adrenaline, mixed with hope. This was it, their chance to make something real. Earl's Kitchen, the name they had chosen together, was set to open its doors. The neon sign flickered above, casting warm hues on the sidewalk, inviting the curious. But beneath that bright promise, shadows danced. Ready? Henry muttered, gripping the edge of the table, his palms slick with sweat. Always. Let's serve some magic, Jasmine replied, a fire glinting in her eye. As the minutes ticked down, the nervous energy crackled in the air. The small space buzzed with scents, sautéing garlic, fresh herbs, and the heady aroma of spices. It felt like coming home for the first time. Just then, a figure appeared at the door. Tall, commanding, it was Marcus, a former sous chef who had walked out on Henley years ago. His presence sent a jolt through the room, breaking the fragile atmosphere. What are you doing here? Henry's voice tightened, suspicion pulling at his stomach. I've come to see your circus, Marcus shot back, a sneer creeping up his face. He walked in slowly, the clink of his designer shoes echoing like a warning bell. Behind him, the glances exchanged among the staff spoke volumes, the whispers of judgment barely contained. Leave us alone! Jasmine's voice rang clear, cutting through the tension. She stood her ground, the fiery spark in her eyes unyielding, ready to face down anyone who threatened their dream. But Marcus only laughed. You think this'll work? You think you can just play chef after everything? You were a joke back then, and you still are. Henry's heart raced, memories flashed, the reviews, the scorn of the elite. But there was something deeper in Marcus's eyes, a bitterness. Could it be jealousy? Shut up, Henry shouted, his face burning. And then, without warning, Marcus took a step closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial hush. You should know. Your little kitchen is built on lies. What do you mean? Jasmine asked, stepping protectively in front of Henry. A cold smile played across Marcus's lips. You think you're all clever? This is not just about cooking for the people. This is about a secret you're hiding. That big story of yours? It's about more than your fall from grace. It's about how you rose in the first place. The underbelly no one wants to talk about. Henry felt the air thickening. What are you talking about? Check your past. There's more to your so-called arrival than a simple restaurant. Something dark. The clock ticked louder now, a countdown to catastrophe. The staff stood frozen, mouths agape. Whispers ripple through the gathered crowd outside, hungry for a scandal. Get out, Henry managed, but his words wavered like the flickering light above. Marcus leaned in, his voice a serpent's hiss. You're not just a failure, Henry. You're a ghost with blood on your hands. Time froze. The world outside faded. Henry's heart was a brutal drumbeat in his chest. What did Marcus know? What lies threaded through his journey? Panic clawed at the back of Henry's mind as Jasmine's gaze hardened. Their dream loomed lighter than shadows, threatening to unravel before it even began. Henry! Jasmine's voice trembled, a tightness wrapping around them both. And before he could respond, a deafening crash echoed through the doorway. The glass window shattered, glass shards flying like tiny stars, chaos erupting from an unexpected place. The time for hiding was over. Secrets lay bare, and as the ground shifted beneath them, all Henry could feel was the tightening noose of impending truth. Would they break free? Or was this just the beginning of an even darker tale? As they raced toward their first big night, the atmosphere thickened with hope and tension. Henry and Jasmine stood shoulder to shoulder, surrounded by the simmering scent of spices and the rhythmic clatter of pots. The room buzzed with excited voices. Patrons filled the tables, anticipation blooming in their eyes. But beneath that excitement, just as they finalized the last touches before their grand opening, their phone buzzed sharply. Henry instinctively grabbed it, confusion flooding his mind as he read the message. "Emergency meeting," it said. "You need to come now." The words blurred together for a moment. Jasmine caught a glimpse of his face, her brow furrowed. "Who is it?" she asked, her voice cutting through the haze. "It's my old restaurant. They want me to come back. Right now," he stammered, the weight of nostalgia creeping in. "Now?" Jasmine replied, a hint of disbelief mingled with fear. "Are you serious? We've worked so hard for this." "I know," Henry shouted, the tension spilling out of him like a shaken soda can. But something in his gut twisted, a heavy knot that refused to let go. The thought of returning felt like running back into a blaze. Just let me find out what they want," he muttered and slipped outside, leaving Jasmine standing there. The city was alive, the streets pulsing with energy, but as he reached the back of the old restaurant, that energy turned cold. Shadows flickered, and every step echoed. Inside, darkness clung to the corners. The once familiar space felt foreign, suffocating. The moment he entered, the air shifted. Faces hardened. They weren't just cooks or servers anymore. They were tracers of bitter memory. At the end of a long table, there she was, Margot, his former partner. Her eyes bore into him, shimmering with the kind of anger that could cut steel. "Henry, Her voice dripped with venom. "Thought we'd find you in the gutter forever. But here you are, playing chef for the broken." The words punched him in the gut. Memories flashed. Moments of achievement, joy, and then endless arguments, deceit. Had she come to gloat? "I'm here because you asked me to be," Henry shot back, struggling for composure. "You think you're better than us now?" Margot leaned forward, a smug smile on her lips. "I heard all about your new venture with the real people." "Yeah, I am," he snapped. "We'll serve food people crave, not just what you want them to eat." Suddenly, the door swung open and an unfamiliar figure stepped in. A young woman, disheveled and wild-eyed. "Henry, you have to listen," she gasped, breathless. Panic flashed in her eyes. "It's about Jasmine." Time froze, every voice silenced, every heart stopped. "What? What happened?" he shouted, a storm of fear crashing inside him. "She's in trouble. They're going to—" The words hung in the air, brittle as glass. Before she could finish, a shout erupted from the crowd behind him, a call laced with urgency. "She's being taken! They want to shut her down!" Henry's heart plunged. Images of Jasmine disappeared behind walls of red tape and greed. The promise of their restaurant crumbled like dust under a heavy foot. Who wants to take her?" he demanded, anger fueling his voice. The answers felt like a cruel punch tightening around his throat. His past swirled around him, tying itself to Jasmine, igniting the fire in his chest. He turned to the woman, desperate for clarity. "Tell me everything!" But before she could respond, Margot's laugh rang out, sharp and cold. "Oh, Henry, you've really stepped into it now. Welcome back to the game. And this time, it's nothing but all or nothing." The weight hit him like a fierce wave crashing onto hard rock. The truth? It was closer than he thought. But now, the path ahead twisted and turned, dark and dangerous, with Jasmine caught in the middle. His eyes narrowed, determination igniting the adrenaline in his veins. Get ready, because this isn't over. The fight was just beginning. As the night fell over the city, tension hung in the air like thick fog. The restaurant, still unnamed, was a clutter of mismatched chairs and bare tables. Henry and Jasmine were ready, hearts racing. The smell of seasoned vegetables simmering in the corner filled the space, almost electric with promise. "Tonight's the night," Henry whispered, eyes wide. "We'll show them." Jasmine nodded, determination fierce in her gaze. They were on the edge, ready to leap into something grand, something real. But then, just as they were about to open the door, a booming voice broke through the low hum of anticipation. "Henry! ... Open up!" It was Marcus, Henry's old sous chef. Panic surged through Henry. Why was he here? The very kitchen Henry left had haunted his dreams, and now it was back, knocking on his door. "Marcus?" He stepped forward, confusion twisting in his gut. "What are you doing here?" The man's face was pale, eyes wide with fear. "You need to hear this! It's urgent!" Jasmine looked between them, alarm lining her features. "What happened?" Marcus breathed hard, glancing over his shoulder as if a predator lurked nearby. "It's about the review, and the critic who wrote it. It's worse than you think." Henry's heartbeat thundered. Was it the same critic who tore him down before? "What do you mean?" There's a reason he went after you, Henry. You remember Graham Delaney, the food critic? He has a connection to Jasmine. Jasmine stiffened, a shadow crossing her face. What do you mean? He's her father, Marcus blurted out, words spilling like marbles on a floor. He didn't just destroy your restaurant. He wanted to take her down too. Henry's breath caught. The world spun, colors brightening and dimming. Jasmine's expression twisted, turning turmoil and betrayal into a sharp blade that cut through their dreams. No, that can't be true, Jasmine stammered, her voice shaking. I don't even know him. I thought he abandoned me. But he knows you. Marcus insisted, pain echoing in his voice. He's been watching. He's threatened to ruin anyone connected to you, Henry. And now he's targeting this place. A silence filled the room, thick and heavy. The walls felt too close, closing in on their fragile hopes. Henry's stomach twisted into knots. The plans, the excitement, did they mean nothing? Jasmine, he began, eyes searching hers. Is it true? Her expression flickered, confusion and hurt swirling in her eyes. I never wanted to be connected to him. He never cared about me. He was determined to crush anything linked to you, Marcus pressed. He's out for revenge, and he'll use the review to destroy you. The words hung, raw and jagged. Henry felt a wave of ice hit his chest. Trust shattered like glass. They had been building something together, but what if everything was just a trap, a sick game set up by someone hidden in the shadows? Henry, please! Jasmine reached for him, but he stepped back, heart racing, mind whirling. Can we even trust you? He shot back, the hurt cutting deeper than the truth. In that moment, something shifted. The lights overhead flickered, creating shadows that danced with their fear. Outside, the city buzzed, unaware of the storm brewing within these four walls. Jasmine's eyes glimmered, a mix of vulnerability and anger. I'm not him. I'm not my father. I'm here because I believe in us. But Henry felt the distance growing, invisible but wide. Doubt gnawed at his core. Would this be the end before it even began? As a siren wailed in the distance, he couldn't shake the feeling that the battle was only just starting. Could they move forward, or would this dark twist snuff out everything they dared to dream? The question lingered in the air, thick and ominous. What was left now, built on shattered trust? The weight of suspicion hung thick in the air, pressing down on Henry and Jasmine like a heavy fog. Henry shook his head, closing his eyes, trying to push aside the uncertainties that clawed at him. This isn't what I wanted, he murmured, his voice a shaky whisper. But in truth, the doubt had seeped in, worming its way through the cracks of his resolve. Jasmine's hands trembled as she reached for him again. Please, believe me. I've never wanted anything to do with my father's shadow, she pleaded, desperation pouring from her eyes. Then tell me the truth, he snapped, frustration boiling over. What is it about you and him? But just then, chaos erupted. The young girl who had burst in earlier stood frozen, staring at the doorway where shadows flickered, an ominous outline against the dim light. The whole room shifted, tension peaking as everyone turned their heads. A collective gasp rippling through the crowd. Get down! Marcus shouted, pushing Henry back with a surge of adrenaline. A sudden explosion of glass burst through the air, scattering shards everywhere. A shadowy figure stormed into the room, charging past the jagged remains of the broken window. It was Graham Delaney, the critic everyone had feared, his face twisted in rage. "You thought you could escape?" he screamed, his voice sharp and cutting through the panic like a knife. He had a glint of something in his hand, a camera glimmering menacingly. "I've come to expose the truth behind your little fairy tale." "What truth?" Henry shouted. But confusion only bubbled deeper as Graham focused on Jasmine. A wild flicker of madness lighting his eyes. "Your father abandoned you," he spat, finger jabbing toward her. "But that's not the end of the story. You're no better than him." Jasmine's face paled, shock blending into horror. "What are you talking about? I never wanted any of this." But Graham ignored her, his gaze locked onto Henry. "You want to see your dreams built on lies? Let me show you the real Jasmine. The little princess with dark secrets." The room held its breath, confusion thickening the atmosphere. Henry felt the world tilt, his heart racing, brain scrambling to make sense of the chaos. "Stop! You don't know what you're talking about!" Jasmine protested, tears brimming at the corners of her eyes. But Graham only laughed. A chilling sound. "Oh, but I do." He swung the camera toward her, the flash lighting her face like a spotlight. "You're not just a poor girl trying to make a name. You're her secret, hidden in plain sight. A missing jewel in a broken crown." Henry's mind reeled, pieces falling into place, but the truth eluded him like smoke. What was he missing? Graham stepped closer, the crowd parting around him. "You thought you could start fresh? Ha! The world will know everything." A crack echoed, a gunshot. A shot fired, sharp and thunderous, ricocheting off the walls. Time froze. The crowd gasped, everyone scrambling for cover, hearts pounding with primal fear. The sound shattered the night, and as Henry turned toward the chaos, he found Jasmine staring, eyes wide with disbelief. The world blurred, alarms ringing in his ears, voices merging into a single roar. "Jasmine!" he yelled, reaching out to her. But as he moved, the crowd surged, panic erupting like a volcano. A body fell. Marcus crumpled to the floor, blood pooling around him as dread settled like a heavy weight on Henry's chest. No, not Marcus, not now. Everything they had built hung by a thread, unraveling at a dizzying speed. Who had fired the gun? What dark twist had they stepped into? Would they ever truly escape their shadows? Jasmine's gaze met his, filled with desperation, confusion swirling in her expression. And at that moment, with chaos unfurling and lives hanging in the balance, the truth felt even further away. In the storm of shouts and confusion, Henry realized with dawning horror, this was not just a fight for their dreams. It was a battle for survival. The night had become a turning point, an unseen darkness enveloping them. Would they be able to rise from the ashes, or were they destined to drown in their past? The chaos was alive around them, every heart pounding in fear. Henry's gaze was locked onto Jasmine, her eyes wide and terrified. Confusion melded with pain. The room echoed with chaos, screams twisted into horrified silence. And then, as if time itself held its breath, Marcus fell, crumpling to the ground like a broken doll. "Marcus!" Henry shouted, panic surging. He rushed to his side, the scent of blood filling the air, metallic and sickly. The world around him blurred. He felt the gravity of the moment, pressed down on his chest. Jasmine scrambled beside him, her hands trembling as she reached for Marcus. "Stay with us, please," she cried. But his eyes were unfocused, glazed with pain. Graham stepped closer, a twisted grin on his lips, enjoying the chaos he'd unleashed. "This is just the start," he taunted. But Henry couldn't rip his gaze from Marcus. "You brought this upon yourself." And then, from the shadows, a figure emerged. A woman, dressed in black, with striking features and a confident stance that cut through the chaos. "Enough!" she commanded, her voice sharp as glass. Slicing through the noise, everyone turned, confusion etched on their faces. Who was she? "Who do you think you are?" Graham spat, eyes narrowing. "Someone you don't want to mess with," she replied, stepping forward. "Graham Delaney, you're done." Henry blinked, breathless, watching the scene unfold. Why did she know his name? The crowd buzzed with whispers, fear mingling with curiosity. But just as Graham opened his mouth to respond, a flash of blinding light surged through the room. Everything stopped. Henry shielded his eyes, darkness giving way to blaring sirens and the harsh glow of headlights from outside. Cops? But the woman, she moved faster, circling Graham, eyes fierce. "This ends now." She lunged, knocking the camera from his hands. Dot! It clattered to the floor, shattering into pieces just like their dreams. Graham recoiled, shock written all over his face. "What are you doing?" "I'm taking back what you think you own," she shouted, voice ringing with authority. And in that moment, she turned to Jasmine, gaze softening. "You need to leave. Now." "What? Why?" Jasmine stammered, confusion thick in the air. "Because he doesn't just go after critics. He goes after people. You're in danger, Jasmine," the woman breathed, her voice a whisper of impending doom. Urgency pouring from her words. Henry felt like he'd been punched in the gut. "Do you know her?" he asked, his voice hoarse with disbelief. The woman hesitated, a shadow crossing her face. "Of course, more than anyone else." Her words trailed off, tension crackling. Jasmine shot a glance at Henry. "What does that mean?" Before she could react, Graham lunged for the woman, desperation boiling over. "Get off her!" he roared, hands outstretched. But she twisted, catching him with a low swing, pushing him away. "Run!" she shouted again, waving them toward the back exit. They moved, instincts kicking in, but every step felt heavy, laden with uncertainty. Henry looked back at Marcus, still on the ground, and his heart ached. "Save him!" Jasmine cried. But the woman grabbed her arm, pulling her toward freedom. "I'll handle this," she urged. But doubt flickered across Jasmine's face, torn between loyalty and survival. Just then, the truth unfurled like a flag waving in the wind. "I'm your sister, Jasmine," the woman shouted, voice fierce and raw. "And I won't let him have you." The room fell into a suffocating silence. Sister. The word echoed, reverberating against the walls, hanging impossibly in the chaos. Jasmine's jaw dropped, confusion morphing into shock. "What?" "No, but how?" Graham sneered, taking a step back. "This is a family reunion I'll gladly leave," he spat, voice dripping with disdain. And in that moment, everything shifted. Henry was left grasping at straws, What did this mean? Were the lies deeper than he thought? As the sirens blared louder, the chaos thickened and tangled like vines around them. Would they confront their truths, or was this just another layer of deception waiting to unfold? As uncertainty loomed, the storm within them began to swirl, leaving the path ahead more treacherous than ever. The air crackled with tension, every breath a fragile thread between chaos and clarity. Henry stared at Jasmine, her eyes shimmering with disbelief, the weight of revelation hanging heavily between them. "Sister?" she whispered, the word barely breaking the silence that engulfed them. "Yes, Jasmine," the woman asserted, urgency pouring from her every word. "Graham's been pulling strings from the shadows, using you as pawn. But together, we can stop him." Henry's heart raced as the reality settled in. It all made sense, the shadow of their past intertwining with Jasmine's fate like a cruel tapestry. He turned to Graham, who now wore a mask of frustration, fury etched deep into his features. "This is far from over," Graham sneered, ready to lash out. But the mystery woman stepped forward, fierce and protective. "You've underestimated us, Delaney. This is about more than your petty revenge." Her voice boomed with authority, slicing through the mounting fear. The sirens wailed closer now, echoing around them, arms of law and chaos colliding. People peeked from behind shattered windows, murmurs of confusion rising. And eyes darted, and whispers spiraled. Yet in the center of the turmoil, a fierce resolve began to bloom. "Marcus!" Henry shouted, scrambling to him. "Stay with us!" The pool of blood encircling him seemed to throb, each heartbeat a reminder of the stakes at hand. "I'm here," Marcus gasped, that flicker of life still fighting through the haze of pain. But the room spun, chaos surrounding them like a storm. "Henry!" Jasmine exclaimed, her voice breaking through. She was pulling Henry back, urgency igniting in her eyes. "We need to go. Now!" "Wait!" the woman commanded, holding them in her gaze, fierce and unwavering. "If we run now, we let him win. We confront him together." That was it. The moment of truth hung suspended, and Henry took a deep breath, glancing between Jasmine and the woman who claimed to be her sister. They stood united, their fear turning into a fierce bond of trust. "Together," he murmured. "Let's take back what's ours." Graham snarled, but his bravado was faltering. The cops were closing in, and with every second, his grip on power dwindled. The tension snapped, and the room erupted in a flurry of action. Jasmine and the woman rushed forward, a united front against the chaos. Henry felt that spark rise within him. Fueled by a sense of purpose, he turned, eyes blazing. "You're the past, Graham, and it's time for you to fade away." Suddenly, the door burst open, cops flooding in, lights flashing, guns drawn. "Get down! Hands where we can see them!" shouted one officer. Henry surged forward, catching Graham off guard as chaos erupted. The room transformed into a whirlwind of action. The woman squeezed Jasmine's hand, their resolve locked tight. As the officers moved in, Graham yelled, "You don't know who you're dealing with!" But Henry wasn't backing down. "Maybe you don't realize how far we've come." He pointed toward Marcus, who still lay bleeding, but fighting to survive. This is about more than revenge. It's about hope, and we will not let you destroy it. As the situation escalated, the lights bounced off chaos and fear. But through it all, Jasmine's determination shone bright. This was it. They could rise again, stronger together. With sirens blaring and chaos ever present, the dance between fear and triumph played out before them. It felt like the climax of a battle, one that brought hope and uncertainty all at once. Should they truly trust? Would the scars of the past ever fade? As the tension faded to resolve, Henry and Jasmine glanced at one another, unspoken promises passing between them. Could they rebuild? Could they define their future apart from their past? As the fate of their dreams hung unresolved, one thing remained. The fight wasn't over. It was merely transforming. You have to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even a second longer to share. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this ending. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Welcome to our podcast. There's a link. You can listen.